What's up, summoners? King Blair here. With the Epic 7 anniversary live stream concluding, we got confirmation that we are getting an RGB selector. What this means is that you're going to be able to pick a fire, earth, or water unit of your choice that you may have wanted for a very long time with some restrictions. So what we're going to be talking about today is what can you actually pick, why are we getting this, and who should you pick so to better progress your account and my overall recommendations. So if you like the video, make sure you like, subscribe, and join the Discord server. Link down in the description. Without further ado, let's get right into this video. So first, how the video will roll out is first, we'll talk about why are we getting this for the anniversary and how can you get it. Then what we're going to be talking about is what can you even get from this, because there are some restrictions, although they're not many. And then last but definitely not least, who should you pick? I will give you guys a general idea. Again, at the end of the day, it is whoever you want, but I will give you my recommendations on who I suggest with some ideas between each of them, as well as showing the characters in case you're a newer player. So with that, let's get right into it. So first, what are we getting it, right? So right here, we have it. We are getting this tomorrow or in 2 hours from the video, the time that this video posted. This will allow you to pick any fire, water, or earth 5-star without the ones that are restricted. So like the limited units and a few units, and then we'll see that in a second. And all you have to do is log in between these dates, August 29th, 2021, all the way up to September 30th. So pretty good range of time. As long as you log in, you get it. So if you're a player that hasn't been playing Epic 7, yes, you get a free selector, right? That is awesome. And it's for the login event. As far as to who you are restricted, right? You can get anyone except Senya, Bomb Model Kana, Ilna, Sino, Yuna, and limited heroes. This means you can't get Landy, you can't get Luna, you can't get Emilia, you can't get Ram, Sally. If you could, Landy would probably be the one I would have recommended, but you cannot get those heroes as well as these three. Who you can get though is any other one, right? Polides is in there. You can get Polides, you can get Crawl, you can get Iseria, you can get Tama, you can get Basar, Robbie, Violet, Charlie, Elena, Kisik, Karik, whoever, right? There's a bunch of heroes you can get, and that is amazing. We've never gotten something like this. So now that you know who can you get, now it's time for who should you get. So first, again, at the end of the day, the thing about Epic 7 is about having fun, right? And there's a lot of different things that you can focus on. There's Guild Wars, there's Arena, there's PvE, and there's also RTA, right? So there's a lot of different options, but I have a couple of recommendations for who should you go for both early, mid, and all different type of players. So first, I'm going to show you guys kind of a quick summary, but please watch the video because you need to know what each of them, why, and when should you pick one over the other, and my ideas behind each of them. But first, there's ones that you can't go wrong with. No matter if you pick one of these, no matter if you're PvE, PvP, whatever, these units are amazing. Then there's some that are really good right now, but could change with the meta. Then there's some that are really strong right now, but they could become bad. Then there's also some that are really strong if you have amazing gear, so they're not recommended for early game. And then there's some that are for cleavers only. And there's some that are mostly just good if you're trying to get good PvE. And there's some that are just there for, of course, at the end of the day, if you have all the characters or if none of these characters interests you, there's also imprints or any other of the heroes. Again, these are going to be just my recommendations. This does not mean that if you really like Kayron, like I love Kayron, and I've wanted him forever, if that's going to make you happy, then you should go for him. But if you're trying to be competitive, you're trying to get mileage out of this, if you're trying to make this the best, get the best out of this, then this is the tips for you. One of the units that comes to mind that a lot of people are saying is Sigrid. But the reason why I don't think Sigrid is the best option is because at the end of episode 3, we also are getting a selector, as well as she only really works for early game players, and it's only for Wyvern. Whereas something like Tama is good for everything, right? So that's why for Sigrid, I do not recommend her, just because there are so many better options, right? So if you're wondering why she's not there, it is because of that. But now as far as the recommendations. First, the general ones that you cannot go wrong with. First, we have Crow. Crow is going to be the one that if you ever wanted to be better at PvP, he is your go-to, right? He's amazing for Guild Wars, Arena, and for RTA, he's one of the best knights, right? He arguably is the best knight in the game for RTA. The other thing is that no one does what he does, just being able to one-shot a unit with that stream and have consistent defense buff. He's also decent for tanking Wyvern, if you do still need a Wyvern tank for early game players. He's also good for Fire Expedition, for tanking Fire Expedition. I actually do use him as my Fire Expedition frontline, although there are other options for that. But again, he is going to be one of the units that you should very likely get. The other one, this one is more for Cleavers and for high-end PvP. And it's going to be none other than Polides. Polides gets better as more units get released. Whenever they release a new unit that has a non-attack skill, Polides gets better as a unit. If you're playing Cleave, you need Polides. Polides in Cleave is like essentially the only real way you can cleave in RTA right now without them picking Polides into you and you losing, right? So she is incredible for cleaving. But if you're not a cleaver, she counters cleavers, and she also counters a lot of soul weavers, including May Chloe. She does really well against May Chloe. So if for high-end PvP, Polides is going to be your option. She's also an amazing arena defense unit because she's able to cut cleavers and she's able to cut in non-attack skill units. And the S3 just does such good damage. So again, amazing for arena defense, amazing for RTA, amazing for cleaving, right? So for high-end PvP, she's incredible, and she's only getting better with time because of how good this passive is at stopping CR gain and at stopping people from using non-attack skills, because you punish them very, very hard and you come in with an S3 that is crippling, right? So very, very solid unit. Then for early game players, this will be the unit I recommend to you. If you're just starting the game, I highly, highly suggest that you go for none other than Tama. And I mentioned her over Sigrid because she is just incredible. So let me actually go to the general hero so I can actually see her. So Tamarine is going to be the queen of PvE. There's no other unit that does what Tama is capable of doing, right? So with Tama, what is really amazing about her is that she is able to S3, cleanse everyone, heal, push up, and give attack buff, right? She does everything. And on top of all that, her S1 strips. She is the queen of PvE. She's amazing for Abyss. She's amazing for most hunts, all expeditions she's amazing for. I think she actually works for every expedition, right? So she works for every single expedition. She works in every PvE content you can imagine, with the exception of things like Wyvern and like Banshee, right? So she's the PvE queen, and because she's so good at that, she's the one I would recommend for all early game players. If you don't have her, you want her if you want a good easy time in PvE. The last one is going to be none other than Iseria. For this one, it's kind of a toss-up. The one thing I will say, again, if you're a late game player, episode 3, we are getting another selective summon, like kind of how we did at the beginning of the game, where we got to summon 10 times, 30 times. So we get to pick our best 10 pull. We're going to get that again when we clear the episode 3. And Iseria should be part of that pool. But even then, she's still a really good pickup if that's not the thing that you're going for. The reason being is that she is also another unit that cannot be replaced as far as what she does. There's no unit like her, and she is incredible for PvE. She's invaluable in Abyss. She's incredible in Water Expedition. She is really good in Guild Wars if you have something like a Dark Corvus. She will just make it a lot easier for you if you actually have her. Will make the speed up fights a lot. She's also really good if you have Tama for PvP, right? So she's a very good general use unit, and people are always testing her out, even in places like RTA, and having relative success with her. Some people actually think she's a sleeper unit for RTA, but again, just the PvE value that she provides is incredible, and she scales really nicely into the late game, since she can actually be used for some unique PvP teams, especially if you do have a Tama. Again, she's probably of the ones that are general use. I wouldn't recommend her over Crop, Polides, and Tama. She's more if you already have all those other heroes and you don't have anything you're particularly looking for. She's a unit you cannot go wrong with, right? So Iseria, definitely really unique, because she's able to reset cooldowns with that S2. She's able to decrease defense and strip, and she's also has a reliable S1 decrease defense, right? So a lot of skills that really do help her be a really solid unit. So that's why it's another unit you cannot go wrong with, and it's just going to be really good for general use. Now the next one is going to be the general use ones that are going to be good, that I recommend because they're amazing DPSs. But with new unit releases, they could get weaker, right? Because usually DPSs tend to get counter, and they do see less play. But for those scenarios, we have someone like Violet. Right now, Violet is a premier unit for PvP. He's really good for Guild Wars defense. He's really good for arena defense. He's really good for RTA. He's really good for Guild Wars offense. And he's really even good for arena offense as well. And on top of all that, he's actually pretty solid for Banshee if you still have a slow Banshee team. And he does also function in things like Raid if you still are struggling with Raid, right? So Violet, really solid DPS, amazing for PvP, would highly suggest. Again, very PvP focused, and a lot of these will be PvP focused. The other one is going to be Charlotte. The reason why she's on this section that she may be worse is because Luna is getting a buff, and a water unit being very powerful does hurt Charlotte, right? So the more powerful water units that we get, the weaker that Charlotte will be. But as of right now, because Landy and Stannet are so popular, Charlotte is incredibly strong against those units. Charlotte also does really good for things like Asimach Hunt and Earth Expedition. You can also use her for quite a few Abyss stages. So even if she doesn't become as meta, she's still definitely a solid pickup for PvE. Although again, it's a little bit more gambly because she can get worse with time, but it's still a very powerful unit. Now, for the next part, it's going to be units that are good, but could be bad soon, right? Especially as new units get released. We have none other than Bazaar, and I would actually highly like this unit is really strong right now, but he could fall off the meta with Light Angelica, right? That's the only reason why I put him here. If Light Angelica was not on the map, I would actually have put this guy on the priority and that you cannot go wrong with. But because Light Angelica is right around the corner, Bazaar, again, incredible unit. Right now, he's amazing for Guild Wars, Arena, and RTA. I use him all the time for Guild Wars, and I use him all the time for Arena. He honestly carries me in those two game modes. So I would highly suggest, he's really, really powerful, very aggressive, so you do have to build an aggressive team around him. Doesn't have a PvE presence, so it's definitely PvP only, because what he does is mainly going to be stripping with Ignore FRES. But again, with Light Angelica being a direct counter to him, and him already being a little bit less used in the meta, it could be enough to push him out, but I still think he's an amazing option, right? I would still highly suggest picking him up because he's amazing. The other one is going to be none other than Ravi. She's been on a very downward slope recently, and she only keeps going down. She still sees some RTA play. She's still really good for Guild Wars offense and for Arena offense if you do like slower offenses, although it's not recommended. It's usually cleaving is nice for Arena because you get to do more flags quicker. But if you're a bruiser player and you enjoy doing bruiser, she's still really good for that. She's also still really a good bruiser for PvE. I still use her for hard raid. I use her all the time in hard raid. So as far as hard raid, she's also a very solid unit that you can build for that and still can have really good potential for PvP. Again, really good pickup, could get worse, especially with things like Luna coming out. The more the water units are popular, the lower that Ravi will be. But if we ever get to a meta that is very slow, she shines like crazy. She was insanely powerful the previous meta, and she could definitely have potential to come back in the future. Now, for the next section, we have some other strong options that are primarily going to be PvP only options that are hard to build and hard to use, which is why they are really good units to pick up. If you don't have them, I would suggest them, but they are really hard to build. For one of them, we have none other than Elena. So Elena, the reason right now, she's an incredible RTA unit, but you have to have pretty good gear on her. What she does essentially with the S2, she pushes herself up and allows you to heal your allies and reduce AoE damage. The reason she's so good is because she forces Cleave to bring Polides. This is why Polides is so good, because if you don't have Polides and you're trying to cleave, Elena is usually a force span. Because Elena is able to cut your damage and is able to set up invincibility. What's also really good about her is she's able to cleanse consistently, making her really good into things like Carrot. And with there being very good slow DPSs like Charlotte, Landy, even Rem being so popular right now in the current meta, Elena is able to give invincibility for them, so they're able to take turns without having to be worried about getting popped by the opponent, as well as providing overall support with the S1. Again, she's a very high skill unit. She mostly only sees play in higher levels of RTA because she's so hard to use. But if you learn how to use her, she's very, very good. I also do use my Elena in Arena defense since she does cut cleaves pretty well. And she does perform really well in Arena defense, right? So a very solid unit, kind of hard to build. On that same note, we have someone like Kise who's an incredible DPS, but her gear requirements are astronomical. We're talking 270 speed, 3,500 attack, and still like 280 crit damage because she needs to be able to almost one-shot a unit, and she needs to be fast, right? Which is the gear that a lot of people don't have, but if you're able to get it, she's amazing into carry. She's just an amazing DPS overall, able to one-shot units as well as reset them with the S3, giving her the potential to, again, stealth and do follow-up damage with the S1 or the S2 if you need AoE damage. Just an incredible initiator DPS unit, and to that extent, we have the unit that is getting buffed, who is going to be none other than Emil Cowrick. In the same idea that Kise is good, Cowrick as well, again, requires really high speed, requires really good offensive stats. And the only thing with Karik is that he does not get the barrier that Kise gets. So he's not guaranteed the follow-up, which does means he has a slightly higher ceiling of, not ceiling, but a higher requirement of play than Kise does, because you actually need to know how to draft him properly. But if you do know how to draft him properly, he gets a guaranteed reset. So not only does he get really good damage, he also gets to reset any unit guaranteed, since he is able to carry a book. You Soulburn, you reset a target, someone like a Maid Chloe, and they do not get to S3 for those first 2 turns. Really good. Again, Kise and Karik only for PvP. Elena, mostly only for PvP as well. But now, we're going to get to the other part. Then this one, the only reason this is so low, this is for Cleavers only. If you're someone that has been wanting to cleave for a long time, you have someone like Pavel. And Pavel is an incredible pickup unit for sure. For Cleave, he is the premier Cleave unit. Again, very hard to build. If you're not a Cleaver, do not pull for Pavel. His S2 damage gives attack buff with the EE, does really good AoE damage, and the S3 with Soulburn, you're able to one-shot a unit. He's so popular because he's able to do his job as a Cleaver so well. And on the other side, we also do have none other than Flan, who essentially, for Cleave, has become the new Oxlots, right? So Flan is pretty much the new Oxlots of Cleaves. Her setup is just incredible. Her S2 potential to give attack buff and crit damage buff, as well as the potential to Soulburn and give decreased defense and unhealable if they don't have a lot of buffs, is invaluable for Cleave players. So again, highly recommend pulling her if you're a Cleaver. Again, only if you're cleaving. If you're not a Cleaver, don't even look at her, right? So that's the other one for Cleavers only. And then as far as PvE, there's some other ones that if you're only really focused on PvE, but some potential for PvP, we have units like someone like Vivian, who is able to set up attack buff and immunity. She's in almost every single one-shot Banshee team because this is a 3-turn attack buff, and she's able to also self-clear the wave and help you clear that wave, which is why she's so popular for Banshee one-shot. Her S2 does a ton of damage, which makes her also really good for Asimach Hunt. And for things like Advent Side Story, she was also invaluable in that content. So really good for those 2 hunts, as well as being generally good for raid if you do have her good. And the nice thing about her is that she does scale into late game because she can also be used for PvP because of her EE that allows her to cleanse, and you can have a pretty good buffer, right? And a good aggro team. Another one who I recommend was a little bit more niche is going to be none other than Bildred. He's still a really good farmer, and there's like, he's good for Advent Side Story. He's good for a lot of Abyss stages that require big AoE damage. He's also really good for Asimach Hunt. He's incredible for Asimach Hunt. And for slow Banshee, he's also a very good unit. And again, like Vivian, he does scale a little bit if you get imprints on him only though. Because if you get imprints on him, he is the only unit in this game that has this 5-star AoE speed imprint. There's no other unit that has a 12-speed AoE imprint, right? That's why he is such a good unit for late game PvP for speed racing, and a lot of people do use him for early arena, right? So again, not a bad option. If you're more PvE focused, he can be really good. Then we have none other than Rowana. She doesn't really see that much play in PvP aside from arena defense, which is still very powerful. Very good unit for arena defense. But she's primarily there for PvE, right? If you're using her, you're mostly going to be using her for PvE. The reason being, she counters a lot of inherent mechanics in the game that allow you to heal. She's amazing for Water Expedition. She's amazing for Banshee, slow Banshee. She's really good there. She's great for hard raid, right? She's the only reason I'm able to clear hard raid, and she's really good for a lot of Abyss stages, making her really powerful. And the fact that you can also use her for PvP is also really nice for your arena defense. And then last but definitely not least, we have our only real PvE only unit, and it's a unit that a lot of people kind of sleep on, but it's going to be none other than Luluka. With Luluka being just an incredible unit that you're able to do Wyvern with, you're able to do Dark Expedition, you're able to do Fire Expedition, you're able to do Asimach Hunt with her, you're able to do a wide variety of Abyss stages, you're able to do a ton of different raid stages. The reason being, her S3 is an AoE attack, her S1 is an AoE that decreases defense. Her S1 is also a reliable decreased defense because of her EE that allows her to hit 2 times. She's doing damage, she's decreasing defense, and she's also providing a defense buff and support for your allies. She's invaluable for all PvP PvE content, although she does not have a PvP presence. So that is going to be it for the recommendations. As far as some closers to this video, at the end of the day, at worst, if you don't like any of the units that I mentioned and there's no particular unit that you care about, like let's say you don't have a dream unit, what I would suggest doing is going for imprints at this point. If you don't like any of the units, let's say for example, you have an Arbiter Bildred or you have a Spectre Tenebria and you really like Spectre Tenebria, then you can pull for a Tenebria and imprint her and get that nice little bonus stats. That is also a solid option to do if you don't like any of the new heroes, right? Or if you're a collector like me, you'll fill out the collector. For me, it's a no-brainer. I'm getting Polides because I should have pulled her way earlier, right? But for example, let's say I really liked top model Luluka, right? For example. If I really liked top model Luluka, I could pull a water Luluka and feed her to my top model Luluka. So again, at the end of the day, if you don't have a unit that you want, just go for the imprint, right? But that's going to be it for that. Again, to summarize this video and to show that one last time, these are the ones I suggest if you don't have, you want to pick up. The other ones that I would suggest if you want more of a PvE focus with some PvP viability, I suggest this one. For Cleavers, this is no-brainer for right there. And some other options I mentioned there, Bazaar Ravi, you cannot go wrong with Bazaar. Bazaar is incredible. Some other strong options but are strong to hard to build are these units, so I do not recommend them for early game players. And then of course, really good DPSs I highly suggest that you go with is going to be that. But that is all I have for you guys today. I hope that you enjoyed the video and good luck with your summons later on. And hopefully you don't pull the dupe later on when we get the free summon for episode 2. But that's all I got for you guys today, and I will see you next time. Peace.